Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Runehammer Games' Relics of Odium. This is my review for the product. All right, so I am reviewing the very early edition of Relics of Odium, which is available behind the paywall at Runehammer Games. Excuse me. So if you support Runehammer Games through Patreon, excuse me, then you can download this product. It is absolutely fantastic. It's 5 out of 5 stars. It executes on a lot of really interesting things. Let's get to what the base nature of the product is. So at its heart, Relics of Odium is essentially a battle world a battle world is a small, cohesive setting, right? So it's a very small setting. Runehammer Games has done these before, and it's a part of their model. This one is like 20 pages long. The version I read was 20 pages long. It may get longer if when it's released on DriveThruRPG. But these are really, really tight. They're very tight, right? So essentially, you have a concept that is presented. Then you have a map. And then everything on the map is numbered and detailed, and each map location is giving you a new NPC and is giving you new items, and it's sketching the world, and it's all one cohesive world, right? By the way, Relics of Odium is written specifically to work with Index Card RPG. It is easily convertible to almost any other, really any other game set, any other tabletop roleplay game set. Be trivial task to convert this over. So it's a battle world, and at the heart of this battle world are the Relics of Odium. And the Relics of Odium are socketed weapons, okay? So socketed weapons. These are incredibly well-crafted magical weapons that are socketed to take powerful magical gems. Okay, and in this campaign world, in the Odium world, right? The relics are the weapons. Odium is the world, and these magical gems, I don't believe they may have given a specific name for them in the product, but the magical gems, they come in 5 colors. They come in red, orange, yellow, blue, and green. And so basically, you have these 5 colors. And so you would get, so basically the idea is that the player characters are going to be put into this world, and they will be, they will start by either questing for one of these weapons, or they may start with the weapon, or they might start with the weapon and one of the gems, right? But once they're in, the campaign will most likely be about gathering the gems. So basically, these magical gems, they come in, red, yellow, orange, blue, and green, and each weapon is presented in the book. And all the classical weapons are here. So you have a longsword, you have a warhammer, you have a bow, you have a shield, and you also have a dagger. And then additional to that, you do have a blunderbuss, which is a little bit of a problem. We'll get there. I don't know if I said this already, but this is a 5 out of 5 star product. I was really thrilled with this. So I might have a few. So basically, I've been talking about the power aspects of this game, right? Well, there is a few sour aspects of this game, things that I didn't like, right? So I'll call them power aspects, sour aspects. But I love this game. So I have a few sour aspects. I'll talk about them briefly. But overall, this, even though I may say I didn't like this or I didn't like that, I love this. I absolutely love this product. And I can't recommend it high enough. It's absolutely worth every penny you'll spend to get it. This is a 20-page product. I would have bought it for $20 and been happy, right? Very, very good, solid product. So the gems go in. So basically, each weapon is presented, and just like all the other products, you get these beautiful images of the weapons are actually drawn on cards, right? So, and they're beautifully illustrated, and they show where the the gems would socket in, right? So, but I did make it clear there is one blunderbuss. If you're running a traditional fantasy game that doesn't have firearms, you'd have to remove that one, right? But one of the things that was really neat is then you're given a one-page description of each weapon, right? And on that one-page description of the weapon, what you get is you get what happens when you put this weapon, when you put this gem into this weapon, right? And it's fantastic. It really is wonderful, right? Each of the powers is very unique. It is like, this is, put on your big girl pants, because these are real changes to your character, right? So one of the things is, whenever you get one of these Relics of Odium, you're going to socket it into your weapon. Now, first and foremost, I think the way it works is you can actually just take a +1 in stats on anything, or use one of the powers, right? So so basically each gem does a different thing when it's slotted into a different weapon, right? In addition to that, you have this issue of so in addition to that, you also have this idea that once you have one of these socketed weapons and you start adventuring and you get one of the gems and then get another gem and get another gem, your character is ramping up in power, right? Because these are very, very real powers, right? So one gem might help you fly, right? Give you limited flight. One gem might make it so that when you roll on a 15+, it allows you to strike again, right? One gem might be armor piercing, right? The piercing on this weapon is now, the damage on this weapon is now armor piercing, right? And there's dagger, longsword, warhammer, shield, blunderbuss. There's 5 weapons in this product, okay? And then in addition to that, there are 5 gems. So that means you have 25 different powers, right? The Relics of Odium themselves, the weapons and the gems are fantastic, right? They really are great. They're really unique. They're powerful. When the characters get them, when the player characters get them, they really feel like they've had a huge boost in power, like they've received something of major significance. Like, it's not a forgotten item, right? And it's strong enough that you can base an entire campaign around what's happening with these Relics of Odium. Very, very good, all right? Now, so I love it. Now, just so you're aware, there are some additional things that could be done with this product. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this product expanded in the future, perhaps, right? So one of the things that you could do to expand this product is, what happens if you put different gems into different sockets in different configurations? The game doesn't go into that, right? But that could be an expansion of this specific product. And just the product itself brings that question up, right? And if you purchase this product, you as the game master could do that, yourself, if you wanted to expand it, right? And I think it's one of the reasons why I'm so into Runehammer Games stuff is they do so much with so little text and so little images. It invites you to fill in the gaps, right? And it's such a winsome and wonderful system. I really love it. All right, so you have the Relics of Odium, and you could do the configuration. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And then the other issue is, what about socketed armor, right? There is the shield, but it's kind of different, and the shield is often used as a weapon. So it really it does serve as a weapon. But in addition to that, and actually, once you have to get the gems in it, you can absolutely use it as a weapon. All right. But one of the things, I forgot there's one more. There's a mechanical arm. One of the Relics of Odium is a mechanical arm. So not only there's the mechanical arm and there's the blunderbuss. These fit in any kind of campaign where it mixes sci-fi and fantasy, but they don't really fit in the fantasy games. And you're kind of like, oh man, I would have liked to spear a little better, or The other thing is that you get in here is, or one of the other possibilities you could do is, what about armor? What about socketed armor, socketed helms, socketed torsos, greaves, that kind of thing? So that's definitely an area for expansion that I think would be interesting to see expanded later if Runehammer Games does that. I'm not sure if they'll do that. One of the reasons why is Runehammer Games doesn't dwell on their stuff. They build something and then they build something new, which I love. I think that's fantastic. But this is a great product. The socketed weapons concept is executed incredibly well here. It's really exciting. It's fast. It's very, I don't want to say it's generic. It is, essentially, it's generic enough to where you could easily drop this right into a campaign. Like, and a lot of games claim that, but it's not always true. This is very, very transportable. All right, let's talk about the world itself. Odium, right? This was a sour aspect. Everything I just talked about was a power aspect. And actually, this is just my opinion, but I don't think this has anything to do with Runehammer Games. There's a huge question going on right now. It's a huge question mark for the entire tabletop role-playing game community, which is there was this. I think it came up in 2018 where many tabletop role-playing game designers started talking very directly about decolonized Dungeons and Dragons, right? So if you look at Dungeons and Dragons for 5 minutes, you see that its influences specifically from J.R.R. Tolkien are massive, right? And humans, dwarves, elves, that's the core, right? Like you're snapping, you're bolting on a few other heritages, a few other lineages, but you have enough to run any campaign with just dwarves, elves, and humans, right? And the reality is, a lot of fantasy games they're really starting to say, what if we establish fantasy as a decolonized Dungeons and Dragons? The idea that Dungeons and Dragons with the strong J.R.R. Tolkien aspects is a colonial Dungeons and Dragons, right? And that a decolonized Dungeons and Dragons would be fantasy that no longer has dwarves, no longer has elves, and really kind of eschews the whole Middle Eastern, the whole medieval European aesthetic, right? And replaces it with something new, something different, and something unique. Maybe a melange of aspects from other cultures, right? Well, the D&D design, the tabletop role-playing game designer community, in my opinion, fell in love with this idea a year and a half ago. But I'm not sure that the market or the tabletop role-playing game population has fallen in love with this at all, right? And there are a lot of problems with it. So one, J.R.R. Tolkien was a genius, right? And when you bring people into a fantasy game and you drop humans, dwarves, and elves, there's a whole bunch of things that just fit very naturally into place. It's a very compelling framework, right? So humans have versatility, and dwarves are, stodgy and they live in the mountains, and elves are, friends of the land and they live in the forest, right? And dwarves are very different than elves, right? And when you go into the Dwarven Mountains, it's logical to find goblin monsters along the periphery of it, right? When you go into the forest of the elves, you could be accosted by bears, or you might have to do, or you might encounter a magical stag, right? There's all these things that logically fit, right? Well, for Relics of Odium, I feel like they're going down this tabletop role-playing game design road that a lot of people are falling in love with. Designers are falling in love with this, but I'm not convinced at all that the market really likes it, or the core players or game masters really like it, right? And that is, the world of Relics is it's like fish people and a fungal vampire, and it is steampunk, right? Like it's a mixture of fantasy and sci-fi, and it doesn't feel like Tolkien at all. It also doesn't feel like consistent, right? It doesn't. You're like, why are the fish people here? Why does the vampire have a fungal template on it? And it doesn't make sense. And it's just, I think it's a noble goal that these designers have. But the problem is, when you're replacing something, if you're bringing something that's worse, it really kind of undermines your original idea, right? So I bought Bearcats. I absolutely love Bearcats. I used virtually every single aspect of that game. I changed very little. But when I run Relics of Odium, and I will definitely be running Relics of Odium, I don't even think I would use the map or any of the NPCs in it. I'd have to replace all that. That's a first for a Runehammer Games world. That's the first time I've ever had to do that. But I felt like If they had just dropped the normal fantasy aesthetic onto this, it would have been a much, much better, much stronger product. And I don't think actually many people will run this in the structure it's actually presented. But the relics themselves and the socketed weapon system is so strong and so well presented. The images are so beautiful. It's so consistent, and it's easily lifted out of the product, right? I think it's so consistent and so strong that I think a lot of people are going to have an absolute blast purchasing this, running this, playing this, game mastering this. It is a wonderful, wonderful product. I thoroughly love it. I highly recommend its purchase. And I also do extend sympathy to Runehammer Games on this question, right? I understand the desire of tabletop role-playing game designers to explore this decolonized D&D aspect. But I think it's going to be a hard road, and I think there might not be a happy ending at that road. I think a lot of designers are going to find that. And I think there's already proof of this. Overlight was a game that came out last year. It was beautiful. Absolutely fantastic game. Really, really unique. One of the most unique worlds I've ever seen. Almost nobody plays that game, right? It's just not... there's just not a large market for a decolonized D&D as I see it now, right? It'll be interesting to see if that changes in the future. We will see. But again, last thing I'll say on this is Relics of Odium, 5 out of 5 stars. Hard recommend. Check it out. I think you might really enjoy it. I'm also very curious if you have played or GM'd Relics of Odium, or if you think you would be excited about dropping a socketed weapon slot system into your game. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.